Hello and welcome to the Blue Life RX channel. My name is Natalie Pelto. I am one of the co-founders of Blue Life RX, and today I'm going to be talking all things building brilliant brains for our kids on the spectrum, and actually for any child, especially if they suffer from ADHD, autism spectrum, PANS and PANDAS. And we're going to dive into one of my favorite topics, which is nutrients that support healthy brains. Today, I want to highlight a nutrient that is essential to brain development, specifically zinc. It has so many different impacts within the brain that I'm going to break them down for you. But before I do that, make sure to give this video a like and a follow or a subscribe so that we can continue to have these amazing conversations at helping your child develop a brilliant brain, even on the spectrum, so that they can have the best results in communication and independence for their future. So today I'm going to highlight 4 different ways that zinc impacts the brain. And the first one is actually neurotransmitter function. Let's break that down a little bit in a very simple way. Number one, the zinc is involved in the regulation of neurotransmitter function. So there are neurotransmitters such as GABA and glutamate that actually are impacted by zinc. And what these do specifically, and why these two are the transmitters I wanted to share a little bit, is because they have an impact in your child's behavior, mood, memory, and cognitive function. And so knowing that we have this impact is really powerful for our kids, because it means that you get less meltdowns, you get kids that have academic performance that's much higher, and you also get them to remember and connect and have better awareness of their surroundings. Second thing I want to mention is if your child is between 0 and 2, and then a little bit, and truthfully, we continue to have brain development all through our young adult until we're like past 25. So if your child, though, is in their early stages where a lot of neurons are being created, neuron growth and development is impacted by zinc. So that means that it's necessary for the growth and the development of the neuron, the actual nerve cells. Now, if your child is suffering from something like sensory processing disorder, having extra zinc is by default going to support this condition and help them to be able to process information in a very, much more efficient way. It's also really important for the structure of the existing neurons. So by default, zinc is absolutely crucial for the formation of our children's neurons during brain development, which we know now is a lot longer. Now we know that most of the brain is actually developing, or the neurons are structured by the age of around 2. But the truth is that we continue to grow, and the integrity of those neurons can be improved even if you're past that age. Number 3 is that zinc is absolutely a powerhouse for antioxidant defense for the brain. So that means that our brains are very sensitive to oxidative stress, so free radicals. And if you don't know what a free radical is, it's basically when there is damage that comes from external sources. This could be from sunlight, smoking, toxins that we have in our environment. And what happens is that we can have damaged cells. And so there is brain matter that can be damaged by default by free radicals. They are just damaged cells. That's the basic fancy term for a damaged cell. And so what an antioxidant can do for those damaged cells is actually correct them by fixing the damage, kind of resetting them to a factory setting. And so we want more of these antioxidants in our brain, because it means that even if there has been damage done, it can have a different outcome. It can have support, and it can, again, have those cells reset to factory settings. Zinc plays a crucial role in this, which will actually help to maintain cognitive function and preventing specific in the future neurodegenerative disease, which is also linked to autism in the future. We know that autism can have some lower outcomes just because of, by default, the condition, and we can have such a different outcome by supporting this. And number 4, last but not least, zinc is involved in synaptic plasticity. That is a big term. What does it mean? It means that it's the ability for synapse, and in a simple way to say that, it's the connection between the neurons. So our neurons are close together, and chemicals and chemistry are the messaging that we receive from our external sources. So what that means is what we see is a message that we get that's chemically provided, and then it attaches to a receptor on the neuron to deliver the message. So neurons can also talk to each other to continue the process, let's just say from receptive to expressive language. And so seeing zinc as a kind of like the powerhouse to help that synaptic connectivity, making sure that, like, I like to look at it as Thor's hammer. Like, if you don't know who Thor is, he's like, an Avenger, and he's been a character forever, but he has this really powerful hammer, and the hammer shoots out electricity. And so imagine that electricity being very skewed and going all over the place in the brain, which means that we aren't getting the proper messaging. We want that piece of electricity to just really have a good connection. And so between the neurons, this is what can happen when we have adequate amount of zinc. Zinc ions are basically released into the synaptic vesicles during neuronal activity, which is like information that's being like an intake of information, and are thought to modulate the synapses plasticity, which means that connection. So you're basically giving it a good shot of electricity that's going, and it's very clear, and it influences the efficiency of the transmission. So we want that. Actually, zinc is a powerhouse. So now, kind of in summary, you understand that zinc is absolutely essential for. So now you may wonder what type of supplement I would recommend. And the truth is that I do not recommend supplements very often. I prefer to share natural ways to get zinc in plant form, because, and for some of you guys, it's going to be like, oh, I want to turn off the video now. My child's a picky eater. If that is you, please make sure to actually watch my webinar or my masterclass. It's live every second Thursday, where I talk about how to get your kids to eat these things. Because the truth is that you cannot just supplement your way to proper brain function. You actually need to provide the entirety of the body with the proper nutrients, and those actually come from the foods that we eat. And so I gave you guys 4 tips on, or 4 explanations on why zinc is important. Now I'm going to give you 4 different foods on why to help with this process. And maybe in one of those foods, you will find an easy way to introduce it if your child is a picky eater. So the first food is actually legumes. So these are things like chickpeas, lentils, beans are very, very high in zinc. And the other thing that's great about these foods is that they feed the microbiota in your microbiome in a really great way. And they are extremely crucial for development. And so you really want to prioritize these. The second food is actually nuts. Now, there is a little bit of a warning with nuts and seeds in some context. Nuts, specifically, for example, cashews, almonds, and pine nuts, do have some or moderate amounts of zinc, because they also have phytates. This is something that we want to actually not have, because it stops the absorption of zinc. So what we do is we soak these nuts, and it will help to release that, and it will help to increase. Another thing you can do to help increase the absorption when you're eating plant foods that are higher in zinc is to support them with vitamin C. So things like, if you're eating, for example, cashews, another great thing to have with it is like a clementine, something that has a lot of vitamin C. Seeds, so these are especially my favorites that I do recommend to all my clients, is to start to incorporate pumpkin seeds. Amazing. And then whole grains, but these are things like oats and quinoa that contain zinc. These are the combination of foods that really help with cognitive health, memory, and behavior issues. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please don't forget to give us subscribe, and make sure to share it with your friends who possibly would need this very important information for proper brain development, especially with kids on the spectrum or who have ADHD. The thing is that currently we have a disconnect between our medical or healthcare teams, that they just don't have this information, even though it is, like we say, our kids are not unicorns. They're not aliens that have different rules when it comes to proper brain development. And unfortunately, due to sensory and picky eating, we have a lot of children on the spectrum that are not eating the foods that I just mentioned. And so this is something that can easily be overcome. We have a 100% success rate in overcoming sensory and picky eating within the Blue Life Autism program. The details for that are also included in the masterclass that I offer. I would highly recommend joining it for that. And to share that because our healthcare system does have a little bit of a disconnect, it's coming. But for all this information to be available in, let's just say, medical books, it generally takes, we'll probably see it within the next 10 years. So this is something that the mainstream is not yet really discussing, but it could help so many people. So go ahead, give it a like, give it a subscribe, and give it a share. Have a great day.